Welcome to Business Casual. I am Mihae An, your host and author of The Stories We Tell and Perfectly Incomplete. Business Casual brings you unfiltered conversations with badass, inspiring, highly accomplished women. I am passionate about and believe in the power of sharing stories, our authentic, raw, incomplete stories, getting beyond the polished LinkedIn profiles to the real humans behind the titles. My guest today is Jillian. Jillian spent over 25 years in the pension and financial services industry, building a career grounded in problem solving, relationships, and a deep desire to help people navigate complex systems. What I appreciate most about Jillian is her thoughtful and human-centered approach to both leadership and life. She brings clarity to complex topics like financial well-being while also speaking candidly about the emotional realities that often go unspoken, including our relationship with money, self-doubt, and the pressure many women carry throughout their careers. Some key takeaways from our conversation include: our relationship with money is deeply emotional and often shaped by experiences we do not openly talk about. Career journeys do not need to be linear. Thinking in chapters can create space for growth, reinvention, and self-compassion. The most meaningful moments in life are often not measurable, but they shape who we become and how we lead. Please enjoy this thoughtful and energizing conversation with Jillian about financial well-being, leadership, and navigating life's many chapters with curiosity and intention. Hi, Jillian. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good, thank you. Oh, thank you for the time. I was very much looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, me too. This is really exciting. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Okay, so to get started, a little bit of intro, please. Who you are, where you are in your life journey, career journey.
Okay. So my name is Jillian Kennedy. My official title is Chief Strategy Officer, and I work at the CAAT Pension Plan. So I've spent over 25 years of my career in the pension industry, which is really kind of funny to me because I actually went to school for literature and communications, and of
Didn't know
course
that.
ended up in the financial sector because that's what happens. And I got in because I just love solving problems and I like to help people. And so started my career, I grew up in Waterloo, so I started my career in an insurance company, which a lot of people did. Um, and then ended up at a consulting firm, and I spent 18 years in consulting firm. I really, really liked the strong relationships I was able to build there. And then about a year and a half ago, I came to the CAP Pension Plan. So that's where I am today. And I left consulting because I wanted to see what would it be like to actually work for a mission and a purpose, right? I've been giving advice and I've been like a trusted partner in providing that advice. And it was like, what would it be like if I was actually the one executing that advice, right? How would that feel? And so I challenged myself to leave behind a very comfortable position I had built over time and just kind of dive into what would it be like to be on the pension side. So CAT's really unique. We're not for profit pension, and we build out our pension based off of a value add. So we have over 750 employers, 110,000 members. And the idea is if you kind of have like a piggy bank and you're all by yourself and you're putting coins in the piggy bank, right? That's not going to be as much reward as if your entire community had a piggy bank, or maybe your entire province had a piggy bank, or for CAT, the entire country has access to the piggy bank. Now we're talking about a bank, right? So that's exactly how we operate.
That piggy bank analogy is very easy to understand.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Was there and still is there quite a bit of market education that the team at CAT going through to educate folks around what this means, why this is important, and so on?
There is, and the way I kind of look at it is the best way to describe it is innovative disruption, right? And so I kind of think about, let's make it really simple. If you think about ride sharing, right? Ride sharing probably was created with people just carpooling and then maybe a taxi. That wasn't the innovation itself. The innovation was when maybe Uber came along, and now we can do ride sharing through technology. And there's lots of examples like the car. The car was not the innovation. It's when the car became accessible to everybody that disruption occurred. And so pensions have been around for a very, very, very long time. Savings has been around. We see behavior and how people act around money. We know that the longer you have to save, the more difficult it is. We know that things get in the way. We know financial security is important. We know all of these things, right? But where the disruption comes into place is where CAAT says, well, how could we do it differently? How could we remove the barriers? And how do we take some of the ingredients that already exist in our marketplace, one part behavior, maybe one part pension regulation, all the things that create security, but also flexibility. How do we actually put all of that together and actually create something that is brand new, that's building off of a system that already exists? So that's let's call it the burden of responsibility for us to try and carve out that unique space for ourselves. But innovative disruption is important because it actually creates different ways of doing things that we hadn't thought of doing before, that actually create efficiency, productivity, and all the things that I think people are really looking for right now in this market.
Financial literacy, when we think about it, we don't learn about this at school. We go through formal education for years when we are in the school age, kids and even universities and whatnot. We don't really learn about it. And when you become adult, now you are in this world where you are expected to know all this and figure out your way. And even though I had parents who were interested in educating me and so on, still it was quite a bit of learning curve. And for me, being immigrant, every country has different system and so on. So it was another learning curve as I moved to different countries. And it hasn't been an easy journey.
No.
So whenever I see you speak, because I've seen you speak at various events, like thankful that you are going out there and educate people around what you do and why you do what you do. I think that really matters.
Yeah, like, I mean, I have some, here's some thoughts I'll just break down what I'm thinking. So the reality is that I think I always compare the concept of a financial well-being, like how we want to be well financially, to how we want to be well with other things in our life. So we know that if we have really good sleep and we eat well and we are active, we know that we're going to be healthier, right? We did learn a lot of that in school, right? But what makes that learning in school and part of our cultural norm easier and accessible is that it's transparent, we can talk about it, we can access, strategies and programs and all of this stuff. So that's what I think being in a, kind of being in a school system and learning things organically, that's what it does. It creates an openness, it creates a vulnerability, and it creates a sharing atmosphere. It allows us to learn from each other's mistakes, right? I think one of the worst parts of financial literacy or well-being, right, is that again, we probably know what we need to do. We probably know we need to do a budget, and we need to save, and all of this stuff. But there isn't enough transparency and acceptance around how we feel about that.
Yes.
And the amount of shame that I see around talking about money is actually it's not just people who have lower income, right? What I've learned is that if you can make money, you can spend money, and if you can spend money, you can get into debt. And those basic concepts of just being able to culturally learn from each other, having programs, and just accepting that our relationship with money sometimes will not be good. And maybe that's even a rite of passage as we go through our life cycle, right? Like, let's face it, we get to the middle of our life, and everything is happening all at the same time. right? We're having potentially a family, we're buying a home, we're at the height of our career. Think about how overwhelming that is. And yet, that's exactly when you should be saying, okay, I've got, this many years that I have to save, and I should be actually doubling down on that. And yet, you're competing with all these priorities. And so what is that person going to feel, right? That relationship that they have with money is going to change. And if they have the support and they have the ability to just talk about that, then I think it would be different. And I think that that responsibility has now been pushed onto the employment relationship because it's been put into the expectation of, by working here, I don't just expect a wage, right? I don't just expect you to support with my overall well-being, but when it comes to financial literacy and wellness, you need to give me the tools to be able to support my income when I'm no longer working, right? And so it's pretty unique for Canada when we compare it to other developed countries and markets where it's either a lot more focus on literacy and education, and the system follows, so the rules and regulations actually support that, or there's been situations in some countries like some areas in Europe and Australia where it's like, you know what, we're just going to make this really, really simple. And you don't need to know all of those things. We're going to allow you to outsource that or have someone do it that's actually an expert at that. And we're going to actually help you to be empowered and confident and understand what you need for yourself. And then really just focus in on that relationship that you have with money. So I have these debates in my head, right, around like what does financial literacy mean and whose role and responsibility is it to get there? But it always comes back to this shame and these relationships that we have with money that no one really talks about.
Do you see, in terms of, especially with women, the relationship with money in general and financial independence, do you see any different patterns depending on the genders and whatnot when you work with various?
Absolutely. I mean, okay, so I'm gonna answer this question by something that's frustrating to me.
Yeah.
And what's frustrating to me is that often in research what you will find around gender is that women are less confident. And so I think when we start to actually break that down, you have to take into consideration what's going on in the life of women that are potentially barriers to that financial well-being and literacy and all of those things. I don't think it's confidence. I think it's reality. I think it's not, more of a risk. I think that there are other things that are potentially going on that create this, center of, I need to be careful. I don't think it's confidence. And so we need to start to measure the right things. And so whether it's, an inequity in pay, whether it's the inability for women to be able to, have a job, a career trajectory that allows their pay to go up and for them to be feeling rewarded in the workplace, because the pension system is always going to be tied to how much you need. Right? Regardless of what type of pension you are, it always goes back to that, including our Canada pension. And so when we have potentially women in a workplace that need to exit the workplace because of family responsibilities or care responsibilities, right? When that's having a really big effect. It's like a parachute holding them back, and just one disadvantage after the next. Now, how does that woman then feel when she gets to the same age as her male counterpart and she realizes that she's behind? It's going to affect her confidence, right? And so I think we need to start to talk about the right things, and we need to be able to, start to recognize it's not actually confidence. It's about potentially equal opportunity, right, across both women and men, and what's the role of both to support each other. And at the end of the day, we're realizing that there are some vulnerabilities there that women might have, where we need more support.
If we pick, because when there is big challenge to go after, it can be overwhelming. So if we boil down to actionable action items, one for individuals as like myself, what I can do on that front, and one thing that on an organizational level that we can do, what would those two things be?
So some of the things we've tried to model our pension plan on. So I mean, I could tell you things like we need to talk more, we need to get together more, we need to learn and create opportunities for learning, we need to create space for each other. Like, and all of those things are true. But we also need to take a look at things like flexibility, right? How do we meet people where they are, right? And how do we create a situation where, just like we are in workplaces, we have to really think and get flexible about how people come to work. We also have to get flexible and think about how to meet people where they are in their life responsibilities as it comes to savings. And as that savings horizon shortens, right, what are the things that need to change there? If there's family responsibilities, now we're seeing care responsibilities with parents. You know, if you know, women are trying to get back into a workforce, like how do we create that flexibility for them? But the one thing that we also kind of narrow in on at CAAT is the concept of reducing uncertainty, right? And I would argue, regardless of your gender, everybody will feel more assurance, empowerment, and be able to, you know, have confidence when they have that certainty and they see the goal that they're working towards. But women in particular, research will show, actually tend to sometimes be better planners, right? For example, they will seek out advice, they will talk to each other, they may be even more likely to use tools and calculators. So what would a world look like if we actually removed the uncertainty, right? So instead of, you know, getting some money and you have to figure out how to invest this among all of your other responsibilities, you got to figure out all of these little factors and all of the choice, which becomes choice overload, right? What would it look like if we actually just told you, okay, every year you're going to get this in income, and that's going to kick in when you decide to retire for the rest of your life? Wow, like talk about how that would change the way we plan, the way we learn, the way we like the decisions we make throughout our life cycle when it comes to money, knowing we have the certainty. And so I think that that is actually the number one thing that we need to do. And again, this applies across the board. It doesn't matter what gender you are, but whenever we see a minority or a vulnerability or the people that kind of fall through the cracks that we don't notice, that's when uncertainty becomes risky, and that's when uncertainty can do damage, right? So that's where the predictability is most important.
We talk about longevity quite a bit these days with advancement here and there and health span and whatnot. Do you have thoughts around that, like longevity and financial health and where pension plays a role and so on?
Yeah, so I think longevity is really going to be a surprise to many people. Because if you kind of think about right now, we've been seeing in the research that, you know, things are very distracting up until about the age of, say, 45. Around 45, people start to realize, okay, I have to start saving for the long term, right? And so let's pretend that they are saving, really, really saving at age 45. Most people actually will retire between ages 62 and 65, right? So now we've got 20 years of saving. And then we go into no longer working, right? And now we've got to make that money last. And if longevity means that every generation may live 5 or 10 years longer than the last, right? We are very, very quickly going to be spending income in retirement at a way faster rate than what we're able to save. So you've got the problem at the beginning, which is we've got to get people saving sooner, we've got to give them that predictability, we have to let them plan, we've got to remove the uncertainty. I do think that that's a big part of making sure people can understand that time horizon changing, right? But I think that the other issue is that this is something where we have to start to challenge ourselves on the ideology and mindset of retirement, right? And at CAAT, we hear a lot. We have 750 employers. We have maybe an employer or two, you know, every other week that is joining. So we hear a lot from a very good subset of different organizations, small, big, across Canada, different types of sectors. And they're all kind of saying the same thing, right? Which is, how do I phase this, right? Almost the concept of like a micro-retirement, right? So do I let people who want to go on maternity leave, for example, one day, right, or paternity leave, or any type of leave that's a family care responsibility, do I let them draw the pension? And then they come back, right? Do I have moments of life where people want to spend more time with their families? Let them draw attention. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have to work longer, but we're also living longer, right? And if we're working longer, but we're doing it in a way where we're focusing on the quality of our life, right? So we're taking the breaks when we need to. We're focusing on the things that make us happy. We're not obsessing over an age where we just think we're going to have a permanent vacation, right? We're really, really thinking about it. I think that this will be the future. And I think that we already see this, right? Like, will people really outlive their savings and die homeless? I don't know if that's going to happen before people will actually be in a situation where they just suffer with a really, really reduced quality of life, right? Where maybe all the things and activities, the thought that we're going to do, they can't afford to do. And it's a loneliness issue, or it's an issue of being isolated, or it's an issue of just not being able to see yourself living in an environment that you've chosen and having to make sacrifices. So if that's the problem that we're trying to solve, then I think longevity will force us to get really, really innovative and really challenge our mindset on the work, and like work really hard. Maybe some people sacrifice the quality of their life while they're working. All this sort of magical days where we go off into the future. And I think that will no longer be something that we can count on. So I think that's what we'll see coming in the next market cycle, let's say.
Yeah. I'm working on my third book. I think I mentioned to you before. And the third book is around paradoxes that life brings us. Rarely things are black and white, and quite a gray areas that we live and navigate through on a daily basis. And one of the chapters I do talk about this retirement versus non-retirement and what we need to think about and so on. I have been saying that I do not want to retire. That does not mean that I want to work at this intensity that I'm going at right now at the age of 41 until last day of my life. No, I don't mean that. But at the same time, stopping working, I cannot imagine not working, not contributing in some capacity. And so trying to wrap my head around what my life would look like later in my life, and how I can sustain my physical health so that I could continue to work and contribute in some meaningful ways. And I think that is something that all of us will need to think about. We all have our own ways of contributing, for sure.
I completely, that really resonates with me, because what I've been thinking through is like exactly things are no longer black and white. Not only are they gray, but I think we're going to be forced to think about the black and white at the same time in our minds and hold it there, right?
Yes.
And be uncomfortable and see what happens, right? Like I think that that's what most of us are like. Maybe that's resilience. Maybe that's what we need to do. But when I also think through, like, I think of it like chapters, right? And that makes me really excited because, you know, as a woman, I felt guilty for many years of my life that I have chosen to focus on a career that gives me happiness and purpose, right? There's been guilty moments where I'm like, oh, maybe I should be focusing on my family. Maybe I should be focusing on, you know, my husband. Maybe I should be like constantly. Like I have this thing where it's like, you know, when our ego shows up as women, we always judge ourselves. We're always criticizing ourselves internally. At least I do. And so, you know, like, what would it actually be like if I kind of took that pressure off? I let myself just kind of be in a situation where I let myself have chapters. And maybe one chapter I am very dedicated to my career. Maybe there's another chapter where I'm actually very dedicated to my family, right? And that allows things to happen. It allows me to kind of look forward to something. It allows me to create something and reinvent myself and not be worried about, you know, will I be relevant? Will I be able to find my way, right? Which really takes you out of that present moment, that curious moment that you need to be in to actually figure out what is my next step? Like, how do I, you know, follow my purpose, right? So what you're saying really resonates, because I'm at that point myself where I'm Like, okay, just hold it, be uncomfortable, and like, how do I continuously have chapters and not distract myself from whatever I'm doing right now and thinking too far ahead. I think this is where we should be. Yeah.
Thank you for that framework of chapters. The guilt thing that you mentioned, Jillian, every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day, it is so heavy. And as I listen to you, in a way, it lessens the burden. Just hearing somebody articulating it and speaking out loud, that kind of reduces the
Yeah.
burden. I just felt
Yeah.
it as I was listening to you.
Yeah.
Um,
Good.
right?
Yeah. This
It
is
is,
exactly what these conversations should be for, right? Like,
yeah.
it's amazing every single time I get into a room with a group of people that are women, the things that we are able to, we can get very vulnerable very quickly, and the things that we talk about, I'm having conversations with people about what stress feels like now and how it feels different. Conversations about the moment where stress becomes like panic and anxiety and how that might change their perspective. Like lots of things behind the scenes, there's still we still need to all be a little bit more generous to ourselves. We probably still have guilt and criticism internally that we have with ourselves, right? And I don't I don't know if I feel the same. I don't know if it's easier to do that in my head all by myself. Of course, it's probably not. But getting together, talking with each other, putting it out on the table, I instantly feel better because I know I'm not alone, and I'm not like what I'm going through is maybe this is my life journey, and I'm just doing the right thing at the right time to be able to realize where I need to go to next. Yeah.
And then one thing that I trying to do is not knowing my next chapter looks like is okay. Whatever that I can do in this chapter, the best way that I can do without having extreme clarity around the next chapter, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will figure
I'm the
out
same.
as I go.
Yeah. Lately, I've been in this mode where I've been feeling like, it took a while for me to get comfortable again with my career journey and the next chapter that I wanted to pursue. But now that I'm in a place where I'm very happy, I feel like I'm fulfilling the purpose. Like now I'm like, okay, what am I missing that is not in the workbox? Right? So hearing you talking about writing a book, right? Hearing there's this creative element that I'm constantly having to work on for myself. Like I will always be drawn to like completion and feeling the flow and all of these things, but that piece where we kind of slow down, we create things, we're curious with each other, we talk to each other. When I look back at the last year, those are the most important parts that I remember. Yeah.
What do you do for fun to loosen up some of those pressures that we have on a daily basis? And what do you do for fun?
So I love writing as well. So I used to be a poetry writer, but I've recently moved
Yes.
into creative nonfiction writing, and I am loving it. I am a very naturally curious person, but I also can like get very fixated and focused on things. So what writing does for me is it opens up this whole universe of creativity. I can just create whatever I want. And I've been very reflective and introspective in moving over to the creative nonfiction. So I'm just loving writing. I'm loving it. I've got a little writing group. We get together, and it's just been great. Um, I also have, I love just doing calm, relaxing things. I call them like little rituals for myself, just to kind of make sure my nervous system's always in check. Right? I can go a million miles an hour. I have lots of energy. And so just doing things with like really good friends and, hanging out with my partner and my little dog, like these things I actually value so much more than I did even 5 years ago, right? Where I was kind of in the treadmill lifestyle running from one thing to the next. I really appreciate that downtime and I cultivate it. Right? It's not a hobby. Like I actually carve out the space. I force myself to do it. I cultivate it. I nurture it, just like I would in my job, in my profession, with a work project. And it's had a really big impact on my ability to slow down, my ability to make new connections with people, and to like this reflection. It's like a reflection moment. So this is what I do, and I'm just in this pursuit of, what can I do? What can I add to the great things I've already achieved to expand my universe, expand my connections with people, and just stay like connected into, like you said, like that present moment, not going too far ahead, you know? Yeah.
Yes. In addition to CAAT Pension's mission and purpose that you believe in and you work towards every day, there are any other your personal purpose and mission that you wake up every morning and like really energized for?
Yeah, so I mean, my personal mission, like, so I've been really, really lucky throughout my career to be able to do these kind of spin-off types of, passion projects and research and information on things around financial well-being, women in the workplace. It's interesting when you start to do these things and you think it's a work thing, and then you actually start to realize, no, I really, really am drawn to this. This has become some passion of mine that I like to do. And so I would say that probably what has come to the top has been, how do I make a career journey for women better and easier? I look back on like my career journey, and I feel like there were moments I really suffered, or I really had to sacrifice things that were really, really important to me. And I look back and I think, how can I actually do it better and differently for somebody else? Right? And it has all come from this deep desire and purpose that just the sharing of stories, sharing of information, talking out loud, being vulnerable, showing people, like you said, like just talking about it makes us all feel better. So this has definitely come to the top for me. I'm actually thinking about, like, is this something that I should start just writing down? I'm not talking about like research and stats and, there's a lot of that out there, especially in the financial sector. Talking about just like the story, right? The story of how do you just get through really basic things, like, like the personal stories, the things that I've heard, the things that people have shared with me, like how to pass it on. So this is something that is really, really sticking in my mind, is being something that is giving me purpose.
Oh, that is such music to my ears, Julian. That's, yeah, I'm very much aligned with that purpose that you're feeling in your heart. That
Yeah,
is for sure, yeah, we met through that shared passion, I think, right? That
we
talk
did.
that you and I gave
Uh-huh.
together. Oh man, it feels like full circle.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the very first moment that we met.
Yeah, and that was so much fun. Like
It was.
just that I think it was just a 1 hour panel discussion, right? I left there feeling so excited and happy and hopeful, right? I didn't have any evidence for that, but there's something about just sharing stories and hearing others and being a witness to that that just, yeah, it just fills me up. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to be more mindful of those things that matter that we cannot measure, because so much that we do, especially at work, even personal life, unless we can measure with numbers and stats and data and so on, we kind of dismiss the impact of what we do, what we feel. But life experience has taught me so far that there are things you simply cannot measure, but they are still important that we cannot really, don't want to dismiss. Like exactly what you just said, that feeling that we had when we left that room, that office, yeah,
Yeah.
still important.
Yeah, no, and it, often, you think about what colors life when you look backwards and you think about the major milestones that stick in the front of your mind or your memory, or, if someone was to say, okay, you've got 10 seconds, tell me the top three things that you remember. None of those are stats, none of that is research, none of that is numbers or key performance indicators or any of that, right? It's the moments that are exciting. It's the moments that, are, challenging, and the moments that are in between the great ones, right? So I completely agree. I think that in the business corporate world, we measure and we are sometimes obsessed with measurements. But in real life, and how humans, like, I think there's going to be a movement of human-centric experiences.
Right?
And I
Yes.
think that this will be the future, right? People will be much more drawn to, how those feelings that you can't measure. I completely agree. Yeah.
Are there a leadership guru or anyone, both, I guess, mentor in your personal life who knows you, whom you know personally, and or mentor that you just know of? Anyone that you'd like to share in their work?
To share in their work. Well, I mean, I have to do a call out to the K Forum because I've just had such a great experience with connecting with people. That's actually how you and I met and how you and I got to speak on a panel together. I just think it's such a great purpose to bring together people to be able to have conversations. It's all what I'm saying, to witness, to talk out loud, to get things out that normally you would have to be doing all by yourself. It's been exceptional in my life to just have that reflective time and to have just such great humans all around me that can share that with me. I also have to give a call out to Laura Vaughn because she's an awesome chair, and I think she's been a great mentor to me in thinking through how does leadership look like. Like, I have a deep, deep desire to be a very, very great leader. I just naturally like to help people, and I'm constantly challenging myself to do it differently and to keep up with the modernization of what leadership is going to look like in the future. It's harder more than ever to stay static and to stay fixed. And I feel like these conversations that I have at the UK Forum, the conversations that I get to go into, and conversations I've personally had with Laura and Nancy McCabe as well, have really kind of helped me to challenge myself. I couldn't do that by myself. I couldn't even do it if I was sitting there writing in a journal, right? You really do need to have the right people to ask the right questions and to kind of, not do the thinking for you, but create an environment where you can come to that realization. So that would be, like, right now what I'm seeing. I mean, looking backwards, all of my mentors and all of the people that I have looked up to, that I have followed or I thought were great leaders, were all women. And I'm very incredibly lucky to have had that opportunity in my life. Not all women do. And it's not because I wouldn't want a mentor that is a man. It's just, I do find that I think differently, I speak differently, I react to things differently, and I want that perspective. I look forward to being a mentor and to being a sponsor myself to others. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. There are many, I mean, for me, when I was 2 decades younger, trying to find my way through, was lost and so on. I had some hard time, and looking at women like yourself and Laura and Nancy and those women living their life the way, very authentic way that they do, and the way they share. Until you share, how do other people can see you there living your life and feel inspired and empowered that I can do that too, like, right? So thank you for doing that work, and appreciate you, Jillian.
Oh, I appreciate you. I appreciate just like this conversation. Like,
Yes.
these are the things that make big differences, right? Just being brave enough and vulnerable enough to just talk about it,
Exactly.
and then let's see where it takes us.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
What's next for you, Jillian?
So I definitely probably need to challenge myself to write a book.
Yes. I'm going to
You're
purchase your
open
book
to this.
once it comes out. So I'm gonna
Yes,
wait for it.
yes, yes. So this is my next challenge for myself. I've been kind of dancing around this for many years. I put so much pressure on myself. I have all these expectations, and so I just like, oh, if I don't start, then I can't fail. But the reality is that I have to do it, even if I fail, and I get back up and I keep going. So this is my next challenge for myself. Yeah.
I am so glad that I asked this question.
No, I have to do it.
There you go. Oh, thank you, Jillian. What a treat to have dedicated time with you. We see each other often, but hard to carve out time, just two of
Just to
us.
talk. Yeah.
Yes, so thank you.
No, thank you. It's been my pleasure to be here. I love these conversations. I will leave this call feeling, or this session feeling, actually lived it. So thank you.
That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please remember you have more agency than you often realize. Choose your stories. I'll see you next time.